Every group we're a part of, a small club, a political party, an entire country, is held together by rules. Some of those rules are written down, in law books, but a lot of them, they're just understood. And the glue that holds it all together is loyalty. So what happens when that loyalty breaks? Well, the group has to react. Let's dig into how they do. I mean, really, what does it take to get kicked out? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answers are, wow, they are fascinatingly complex. How does a group actually protect itself? How does it define betrayal in the first place? And what are the consequences for the people who cross that line? To figure this out, we're going to look at three totally different arenas, from the most private rooms all the way up to the highest offices of power. It all starts with this thing right here. I know, it might not look like much, but this little wooden box is an incredibly powerful tool. It's an early American ballot box, and it was used by social clubs to decide, in total secrecy, who was in and who was out. And it's the key to our very first example. Okay, so we're starting small, we're stepping into the exclusive world of old-school gentlemen's clubs and private societies. In these places, the group's identity is literally everything, and protecting it is job number one. The method they've used for centuries to do this is swift, it's silent, and it is absolutely decisive. It's a practice called blackballing. So imagine you're up for membership in one of these clubs. Your supporters can cast dozens and dozens of white balls in your favor, but all it takes is a single black ball, just one anonymous objection, and boom, the door is slammed shut in your face. It's a system that gives an incredible amount of power to any individual dissenter. It's all about making sure that new members are agreeable to pretty much everyone, which preserves the club's unique identity. In the process itself, it's like a piece of theater. Each voting member gets two little balls, a white one for yes and a black one for no. They walk up to the box and, totally hidden from view, they secretly drop one of the balls inside. Nobody sees how you voted. But then, when the box is opened, the result is instant. It's undeniable. One little black ball sitting there among all the white ones, and that's it. It's over. And listen, this isn't just some abstract idea. This was a real, documented practice. If you look at the rules for the Travelers Club in London back in 1879, you can see just how specific this got. If there were fewer than 18 members voting, a single black ball was enough to get a candidate kicked out. It's a system designed to enforce absolute, total conformity. Okay, so a black ball is how a private club deals with someone who just doesn't fit. But what about a much, much larger group, like an entire voting public? The stakes get so much higher when the people breaking the rules aren't outsiders trying to get in, but the very people we've already elected to represent us. So now we're really raising the stakes. We're moving from a simple social rejection to a full-on betrayal of public trust. We are talking about elected officials and that very, very fine line between doing their job and using their powerful position for personal gain. Let's take a look at Texas for a second. This number, $7,200. That is the official annual salary for a state legislator. It's one of the lowest in the entire country. Now, I want you to just keep that number, $7,200, in your head, because what you're about to see creates a pretty wild contrast. Right, so on a salary of $7,000 a year, you probably wouldn't expect to be, say, lounging by the pool at the Beverly Wilshire in Beverly Hills, or maybe kicking back at a luxury spa and resort in Puerto Rico. And yet, this is exactly where some Texas lawmakers have stayed, and the bills, they weren't paid for out of their own pockets. They were paid for by their campaign funds, money that's very often donated by special interests. And oh, it goes so much further than that. The Texas Observer did this deep dive into 5 years of campaign data, and they just revealed this pattern. Campaign funds were being used for international trips, luxury resorts, private jets, the newest tech gadgets, and even really personal expenses like dry cleaning and, I'm not kidding, in one case, stuffed animal heads for office decor. And this is the gray area where this all happens. See, the spending is often justified with some kind of official reason. A tour of wind farms in Costa Rica somehow includes a stay at a $400 a night spa. Attending a colleague's wedding becomes a taxpayer-funded trip to California. As long as they can find a way to loosely connect an expense to their official duties, the system, a lot of the time, just allows it. And the scale of this can be just staggering. Governor Rick Perry's campaign, for instance, spent nearly $500,000 just on travel over 5 years. And a lot of that cost came from a preference for private jets, jets that were often provided as in-kind donations by major campaign donors. Donors who sometimes had a direct financial interest in the policies the governor was making. And that's really the crucial point here, summed up perfectly by Craig McDonald of Texans for Public Justice. He said, it's a system that sometimes amounts to legalized corruption. And that's it, right? While a lot of this spending might technically be legal under Texas's pretty broad rules, it creates this system where special interest money is directly funding a lawmaker's personal lifestyle. It completely blurs the line between holding public office and just cashing in. So, we've gone from the private club to the state house, and we've seen how groups punish people who break the code. But now, we have to escalate to the ultimate betrayal. We're talking about the betrayal not just of a club's identity or an electorate's trust, but of the entire nation itself. We're talking about treason. For centuries, treason has been seen as the absolute worst of all crimes. Some have even said it's worse than murder. Think about Dante's Inferno. The deepest, coldest, most awful part of hell isn't for the violent or the greedy. No, it's reserved for the traitors. That's how seriously we, as a civilization, view the crime of betraying your own. But what even is treason? Well, it's not just one thing. The law actually makes some really careful distinctions. If you look at Canada, for example, there's a difference between high treason, that's stuff like actually taking up arms against your own country, and just treason, which could be using force to overthrow the government or leaking military secrets. The severity of the act really determines the severity of the charge. And you have to remember, accusations of treason can get incredibly political and messy. This 19th century cartoon shows the mayor of Prague. You can see on the left his opponents are demanding he be tried for high treason because of his actions during an occupation. But on the right, his supporters are rallying behind him. It's this powerful reminder that one person's traitor can easily be another person's patriot. The lines are not always clear. Okay, so we've looked at a secret ballot in a tiny private club. We've looked at questionable spending in state politics, and we've looked at the capital crime of treason. I mean, on the surface, they seem like they're worlds apart, right? But there is a really powerful idea that connects all of them. Here's the common thread. Each one of these examples is about a group enforcing its own code of loyalty. With blackballing, you have an informal group using secret, unwritten rules to protect its identity. With the political perks, you have officials exploiting gray areas and loopholes in the rules, betraying the spirit of the public's trust. And finally, with treason, you have the nation itself using formal, written laws to punish the ultimate act of disloyalty. So here's the bottom line. It doesn't matter if the rules are unspoken or if they're written into a constitution. And it doesn't matter if the punishment is just social exclusion or a life sentence in prison. Every single group defines loyalty for itself, and it will always, always find a way to punish those it sees as traitors. Which, of course, leaves us with one last really fascinating question to think about in our own lives and in our own groups. Where do we draw the line? The line between simply looking out for ourselves, voicing a legitimate disagreement, and committing an act that is a true, unforgivable betrayal.